Good morning, everyone. Welcome to STL101. And happy 314 day, by the way. If you don't know about the 314 day, it's a day where St. Louis has so many exciting events. So I'm glad that you could make it to our event, but there's a lot of events happening today. Actually, this week around St. Louis area. So please make sure that you can attend some of it or all of it. Welcome again to St. Louis 101 Mosaic Project STL101 update on Afghan, Ukrainian, and other newcomers to St. Louis. As our region continues to welcome refugees from many different countries, we thought that this was a good opportunity for two experts, two people that have given their time in St. Louis to make sure that immigrants feel welcomed and they succeed in the St. Louis region to provide us with some update. If you were here last year in January, we did an update on Afghan and Ukrainian refugees, Ukrainian parents. And so we thought that it's about time you hear what has happened in the year and what are some of the strategies that have been implemented in the past year to attract more foreign-born, more immigrants to the St. Louis region. But before we go deep into the program, I would like a little bit to talk about Mosaic Project. For some of you that it's your first time to join our STL101. My name is Anne Mbale. I'm the project manager here at St. Louis Mosaic Project, which it's a team of 2.5, which I'll talk about it later. So the Mosaic Project is part of the St. Louis Economic Development Partnership. The way I describe it to make it easier for people to understand is that the St. Louis Economic Development Partnership is like the grandfather. Then it has a baby, which is World Trade Center. Then Mosaic is the grandchild. So in the World Trade Center, we are a nonprofit under an initiative under the World Trade Center, which has 3 umbrellas. It has FDI, foreign direct investment, trade, and people. In the Mosaic, we are people. Our job is to attract and retain immigrants to the St. Louis region. So how does the Mosaic work in the World Trade Center? We engage business leaders to hire more international talent. So I'm sure you have seen Suzanne and Betsy working with our ambassador companies, encouraging companies that it's not that scary to hire international people. Actually, they bring in more talent. They can help your companies grow because we want those companies to stay in St. Louis. We connect immigrants, entrepreneurs. Immigrants are known to be very entrepreneurial, so we connect them to resources, which the Institute has a lot of those resources as well. We introduce foreign-born professionals to local connectors. So that is one of our biggest program. You know, like it's, you know, you might have a PhD, you might have a master's degree, but I know myself, like I was here 10 years, but it was still hard to get an interview, you know, to learn how to get a job in St. Louis. So we try to connect and help people to get into those doors. We collaborate with colleges and universities. We are like a consultant where we try to reduce the barriers of foreign-born individuals because we know how hard it can be. And one of the big things that we do is, we dispel the myth about immigrants because sometimes it can be very negative. So we try to educate people about, how immigrants are not just taking your jobs, where actually they just a few percent of the St. Louis, we're helping the St. Louis economy grow. So with that, that is our team. Betsy, who is on the panel today, is our executive director, and Suzanne is the assistant director, and I'm the project manager. I work part-time, Mosaic part-time World Trade Center. That's why I said it's a team of 2.5. So it's amazing the amount of work that we do with just this small team. We call ourselves the small but mighty team. Some of our goals is, growth, attracting, and welcoming, like I mentioned. So we make sure that, we can transform St. Louis to be one of the fastest growing major metropolitan of immigrants by 2025. We help to design and attract for regional attraction strategies. And obviously, we help companies, refugees, and international students, entrepreneurs, and family members to, to feel welcome to St. Louis. So this is just a summary of all our programs in a nutshell. So, we have companies, we have ambassador schools, we have individual ambassadors. We try to, we don't do we don't do services, we don't offer services, but we help them with resources and guide. We partner with over 200 partners in the St. Louis region, and the International Institute is our biggest partner. So if people are looking for a service for refugees, they reach out to us, and we will guide them to the right place. If you're looking for a lawyer, we'll reach out to a lawyer, and and you can get what you want through us. And one of the biggest things that we're very proud of is to make sure that immigrants, especially positive stories, are being heard. So we have a goal of 100 stories every fiscal year of immigrants, highlighting how immigrants are contributing to the St. Louis region. So speaking of immigrants, you're not here to hear from me today. You're here to hear from these two amazing people. So I will let Betsy and Arrey take over the floor and talk about what we're here for today.
Betsy, Arrey, would you like to go first? I'll let Arrey go first.
Yeah, I'm just going to start by introducing myself. My name is Arrey Obenson. I am the president and CEO of the International Institute. Quite interesting. The month of February marked 3 years since I started out here at the International Institute of St. Louis. The International Institute, of course, has been here much longer than I have been. It's been around since 1919 and has really been doing incredible work in welcoming immigrants and refugees from all over the world. Our mission is to create opportunities for immigrants and refugees to thrive in order to create a more welcoming, more prosperous and healthy region for all. I'm also the author of a book called Bridging the Opportunity Gap. This book can be found on Amazon, but the book just really encapsulates the philosophy that I have and that I use and approach the work that I do, that based on a simple premise that, communities that focus on their challenges become defined by their challenges, while those that focus on their opportunities become defined by their opportunities. And I think the work that Mosaic Project is doing and the International Institute and a host of other organizations in St. Louis, because this is a concerted effort, is really focusing on the opportunities that immigrants bring to this community and how we can leverage those opportunities to make St. Louis really prosperous for everyone that lives in the region. I'll turn it over to you, Betsy.
So I'm Betsy Cohen, Executive Director of the St. Louis Mosaic Project. As Annie described a little bit about what we do, and I will add some depth to the numbers and programs after Arrey gives some other numbers, but I will add that in addition to being the Executive Director, I'm also the author of Welcome to the USA, You're Hired, a guide for foreign-born people seeking jobs, which is being used nationally and internationally based on a lot of the learnings we've had at the Mosaic Project about how to help foreign-born people be successful in American jobs. And I just launched a new ebook that you can find at welcomeyouarehired.com that is called 10 Hiring Trends for 2024 for Foreign-Born People. And in it, I talk about what's happening right now to help foreign-born people because the job market is getting tighter. I talk about using artificial intelligence and ChatGPT, and I talk about what are interviewers looking for today that they weren't looking for 2 years ago when the book was launched. So it's new information, and I'll put the link for that in the chat as well. So I'll let Arrey give you the first group of the biggest numbers of new arrivals and what we've seen for particularly the programs of the Institute, and then I'll come back and talk about all the other groups that we work with.
Yeah, thank you very much, Betsy. A year ago when we did the similar program, the conversation was a lot more around the arrival of Afghans and Ukrainians into the St. Louis community. Obviously, that was as a result of ongoing crisis around the world. the crisis which we all watched on television of Afghans being evacuated from Afghanistan, and then we also saw the war break out in Ukraine, and obviously that led to a movement of people into the area. Currently, we're seeing really a significant increase in arrivals into St. Louis from all over the map, so to speak. In the last few months, we've seen our biggest number of arrivals per month, and we are made to understand that these numbers are only going to continue increasing. So if we look at just the first 3 months, look right up to March this year alone, in the month of January, we saw about 121 arrivals in 1 month. These are refugees. In February, we saw 136 arrivals, and at this point in March, we are seeing 123 arrivals already before, and so that number is obviously going to increase, which tells us that there's going to be an increase. Where are people coming from? Well, we're seeing people coming from countries all over the place, but a lot more African countries. We're seeing people from Zambia, Nigeria, Sudan, South Sudan, Somalia, Cote d'Ivoire, Central African Republic, which is a first for us here at the Institute, Ethiopia, Guinea, Mali, Burkina Faso, the Democratic Republic of Congo. Actually, in the last year, we saw our biggest arrivals coming from the Democratic Republic of Congo. Only in the last year, we had over 260 just coming from the Democratic Republic of Congo. We continue to see a significant increase in refugee arrivals from Haiti, Afghanistan, Syria, Guatemala, Pakistan, and Myanmar. These are all countries that, so St. Louis is blessed in this way that we have a very diverse group of arrivals from all over the world, people coming to St. Louis in this regard. Now, this is refugee arrivals, but at the Institute, we've also seen a significant number of walk-ins of people who have either gone to other parts of the country and are now moving to St. Louis as a result of either what their friends are telling them is happening here in St. Louis, or they are hearing in the news some of the work that's being done in St. Louis, and they're seeing St. Louis as a place where they could come, live, work, and thrive. We've seen walk-ins in the month of January alone. We had about 39 individuals just walk in. In February, we had 44 individuals, and in March, so far, we've had about 28. These individuals are coming primarily from, we're seeing a lot of Cuban, Haitian arrivals, Venezuelans, and Afghans and Ukrainians. So they've gone to other parts of the country and then have decided to come to St. Louis. So we're welcoming them. We also have launched a Latino outreach initiative here at the International Institute, intended to attract, to have an outreach that would attract the Latino population to come and live in St. Louis. And we're beginning to see some movement as well in that regard, with some of them actually even coming here with jobs. We've seen 9 individuals coming from Chicago, 11 from New York. Those from New York are actually coming and working at a plant, a production plant by the airport, which is called Gourmet Gateway, offering their jobs already before arrival. We've seen 7 individuals that have just come away, that are coming from Boston. So we have a wide variety of people coming from across the country. And we currently have our vice president for the Latino outreach down in Austin, San Antonio, and Houston this week, trying to attract more people to come to St. Louis. All of these people that are coming, we're putting them to work almost immediately. reigniting the workforce here in St. Louis. And we know that employers in this region are eager to have more people join the workforce to fill some of the gaps that we're seeing. So all in all, last year we were able to serve, in 2023, we served 1,400 people, new arrivals into the St. Louis area. And we're gearing up for this year that is probably going to be a lot more. Why are we seeing significant increase in arrivals? I could just share a little bit of that. The Biden administration has, in the last 3 years, really been working hard to rebuild the infrastructure that had been taken away by the last administration as well as by the pandemic. And we are now seeing people who have been sitting in refugee camps for 5, 10, 15 years, waiting for their chance to come to the United States, being processed now. And so we're seeing all of that happening now. But we also know that the president has put, the Biden administration has what they call presidential determination to accept 125,000 refugees from around the world to the United States. And in the last few years, we've not been able to reach that ceiling. So far this year, we are hoping to reach about 92,000 refugees that can come into the United States and be given an opportunity to live a life of dignity, to restore hope, and create opportunities for their children. So this is the work, this is why we're seeing this movement. But we've also, as a community and as the International Institute, really been working hard with our partners in this community to position St. Louis as a welcoming place, so that our brothers and sisters who are in other parts of the country who have just arrived in the United States can make that decision to come to St. Louis. And here we would be able to provide them with the support that is needed for them to be on their way to prosperity. So that's why we're seeing all of this happening. I'll turn it over to you, Betsy.
Thanks, Arrey. I want to start by talking about the numbers you might have seen released this morning in the paper, in STL Today and in the Business Journal and on the radio, that showed that our region has now slipped as a region 2 more spots to the 23rd. We have lost regional population, and the ones that came ahead of us were Charlotte and Orlando. And if this trend continues, we will then drop in the next year or 2 behind San Antonio and Austin. So we as a region are losing population. And when you think that our region has 5% foreign-born people, essentially, 7% in the city and the county, but overall 5%, that 95% of our community is native-born. And so as a region, there is no doubt, and today is 314 Day, and I'm wearing my St. Louis Fleur-de-Lis scarf for our area code that many of us have for 314. But we as a region need to invest in the 95% of our community, and we need to be a region that particularly Black mothers and children want to stay in and build their families. And that's going to require lots of people in this region understanding that we all have to work to make this a strong region for everybody who's already here. And that also will make it better for us to attract newcomers. So when we look at those that are newcomers, one of the things that Professor Sandoval has been saying on the news is that our state and region are in a demographic winter, which means we have more deaths than births. And there was a data that said how many foreign immigrants did we have last year versus domestic out migration. And the foreign number was up, the region was up by 3,800 people of international migration. And that's not just people that are international, but it could be US people coming back from abroad as well. But let's say 3,800, but the region lost 5,600 people. So we are in a net decline, but we did gain, let's say 3,600 international migrants who many of them are going to be part of the international community. And as Arrey said, 1,500, whatever, came through Afghan and other refugee programs, over 1,000 in Ukrainian and Afghan. So where are the rest coming from? And I want to talk about some of the other groups that we work with that are adding to these numbers of international migration. Really 6 areas that I can share you some facts and numbers, and we can then take some questions. First, international students. Our region has about 10,000 international students a year. And that has grown particularly because some of our universities are now more actively soliciting and attracting and supporting international students. Of the 10,000 international students, approximately half are at Washington University. The other half are split. But I will tell you that Webster University has grown incremental, approximately 1,500 international students this last year, many from India, Nepal, other countries in Southeast Asia, and some also from different countries from Africa. And I have spent a number of sessions there talking to international students. In addition, St. Louis University has increased an incremental over 500, between 500 and 1,000 international students. So we as a region are seeing more international students. And the challenge now is, how do we keep them? Many of them are coming for graduate programs, and we know that over half of them are in STEM degrees. What's important, which is our second area that I want to mention, is getting companies to hire international talent. First, on the international students, many of our companies do not understand, and I would love you to help share that with your organizations, companies, nonprofits, as well as for-profits, that you can hire many international students who stay on their student visa for 1 year. And if they're in a STEM field, they can stay for 3 years under their student visa. And then during that time, there can be a discussion about whether the organization wants to do further visa sponsorship. So this is really important because when international students come, they want to get American work experience. So we would love your help in getting that message out, or asking any of our team, Suzanne, Annie, or myself, how to connect with the career service offices to talk about getting an international student. Annie herself worked for a year for a nonprofit before she had the opportunity to stay, and we were able to hire her in a different manner. So the companies now are also, post-pandemic, bringing international transfers here. So for example, one of our leading companies every month sends us a spreadsheet with who are the international people moving here. And then Susan Gobo, who is a consultant to the Mosaic Project, reaches out to the men and women moving here to also inquire about their partners and their spouses and their family, and even connect them before they get here to resources in St. Louis, particularly the International Women's and Spouse Program, and also the International Mentor Program St. Louis, where she is also working for them. And they are now a new nonprofit of their own, which is connecting international women to local women. And I'll come back to that. But companies are doing more international lateral transfers of their employees as well. And that is growing for the region. Professional connectors is how we, as the Mosaic Project, connect foreign-born people who are work authorized to network and get a job. And that is what I talk about in my book. It's what Annie referenced. But we're seeing more family members, people that are coming from African countries with diversity visas, spouses of people that now are work authorized, and we are helping them network toward jobs. And we also work with other workforce groups, including the International Institute, when they have people who have middle to high level English skills and then middle to high level work skills, and we can help them network into jobs in their field so they can continue on a more successful path. And hopefully they don't have to spend very much time in a lower level job to get their bearings in the American job market. The International Mentor Program, which Annie can share the website for them, they are now a separate nonprofit, and they are on their, I think it's 57th group of local women, 5 matched with 5 international women. And this is really important because not only does it help us attract women and others that come, but it connects them more deeply to our community, and it also helps them with career opportunities. And for the local people, and I encourage those of you who have not been a part of it, when you get a chance to meet an international woman and be matched with her for a year to meet once a month, you gain a better appreciation of the global world, and it makes all of us richer and brings us together. We are also working now with a new program at Washington University through special money on an Empower program, and the International Institute has its own Empower program, where we are helping with some career advising of refugees who are going to get free training at Washington University for advanced English skills for the job market, and then career pathways into desirable job offers in health and data management and other desirable work clusters. So lastly, I want to say, as Arrey said, they're bringing and talking to more work authorized Hispanic people. Suzanne Sierra on our team and many regional partners are working on an initiative called St. Louis for You, STL para ti. And I'll ask Annie to put the website. And this is launching in partnership with Telemundo, which is Hispanic television, to talk about all the good support in St. Louis for Hispanic people. We are going to be hiring and announcing soon that Suzanne has hired someone to work part-time on content for the website for STL para ti. And we as a region, we are the 95th largest region in the country, practically at the bottom for Hispanics. So looking for people who are work authorized in the Hispanic community, who are in the process of being work authorized, we want them to know that St. Louis is welcoming. So that is another newcomer attraction strategy that's built on supporting Hispanic people who are currently here, but using that then as a draw to attract others. I will turn it back to you, Annie, and to Arrey.
Thank you. The discussion is good when we have just lost one person since we started. So that's good. We have a lot of questions coming in. So I'll just go ahead and dive in unless you have anything else to add before I go into the questions. All right. So we have a question that how is St. Louis unique from other major US cities as far as refugees, immigrants destination? What makes St. Louis an attractive area? Are Afghan females here in large numbers? What are their challenges?
Great, thank you very much for that question. So we, as I said, we have been positioning St. Louis as a welcoming community to immigrants and refugees. And I think that there are several reasons why we have seen a movement of immigrants and refugees coming to St. Louis. What makes St. Louis unique? I spent the last 2 weeks ago, I was in Washington, D.C., and I met with other resettlement agencies. And typically, in the metropolitan areas of the country, we have similar challenges as communities. But as we dig deeper into learning more about communities, I think living in St. Louis is more affordable. I say that you are more likely to live and own a home here in St. Louis than if you were in the East Coast or on the West Coast. So one, life in St. Louis is more affordable. Almost every attraction in this community is free. We have a largely diverse community here. But even more importantly, there is the International Institute of St. Louis here in St. Louis. With many other, as we travel across the country, or as I learn, there's hardly agencies like the International Institute that can provide a new arrival with holistic services in one place, where you don't have to travel across the city to take care of one aspect and go on to the next. We have also over the years really built strong connections with partners in this community that we're able to support our new arrivals here and put them on a path to prosperity. We're also doing initiatives that have not necessarily been done in other cities the way that we're doing. Take, for example, with the Afghan support program, being able to establish an Afghan community center here that create opportunities for an engagement of Afghans that come here. So they know that this community welcomes them. This community is their community, and they can find the resources that they need to be able to thrive. The Chamber of Commerce, the U.S. Afghan Chamber of Commerce that we've also established, and some creative programs that we're working on. For example, the partnership that we have with T-Mobile to provide telephones to all our new arrivals at a hugely discounted price. And it's not just the phone. We're providing them with unlimited data and internet access at their homes. Those are things that used to be a luxury, or maybe a luxury elsewhere, but here in St. Louis is a necessity, and we're providing that to our new arrivals. And we're continuously thinking outside the box on things that we can do. I also want to say that it's hard to find a community where we've been able to establish a coalition of organizations that we work with on a weekly basis. And we've been doing so for almost 2.5 years now, meeting every Tuesday to discuss how we can support our new arrivals in this community. Those are the things that make this community unique, or make St. Louis unique, and should attract immigrants to come here. Even the creation of the Latino Outreach Initiative and programs like STL101, those are the things that are beginning to make, I believe, will continue to make St. Louis stand out and attract that immigrant population.
Yeah, and I'll add to that, Arrey. You know, one of the things that we are seeing is a number of Afghan people who have really kind of mid to high level skills. And so we can also, unlike some of the larger areas, we can work one-on-one. So we are working one-on-one with an Afghan accountant right now. He has a job that's kind of an hourly job that doesn't use his skills, but now we are introducing him to people in the accounting community. Again, one-on-one. We have an Afghan doctor who has a job that's not using his medical background. We've made one-on-one introductions for him to get back into a medical field. And I would say one of the questions was about Afghan women. I've been a judge for the International Institute's entrepreneurship competitions, where immigrants and Afghan entrepreneurs have been able to get $15,000 grants, and they're looking for women, Afghan entrepreneurs, for a competition to help support some Afghan women in their businesses. They're working on increasing some sewing skills for some of the Afghan women. And there's an organization some of you may have heard of in St. Louis called the Collective Thread, which is down on Washington Street, and it teaches immigrant and refugee and other minority women about industrial sewing skills, because they have industrial clients, as well as high fashion, that they just had a fashion show, but there are Afghan women that are employed there and have opportunities. So both for women who want to have skills or entrepreneurship, that's a growing area. I will say there's also national work that's just getting started, because there's a recognition that many of the Afghan women haven't had as many outside the home opportunities before they came here. And so some of their home focus needs to be changed over time so they can develop confidence and skills in both language and work to be part of the American workforce. And that's a national opportunity, as well as something that we are all thinking at how to do that locally, probably with more support through the International Institute.
Great. So there's a question that is like divided into two. So it talks about the slide that was in the presentation area with a meetup group. So I'm assuming that is the mentoring program or the spouse program. So they're asking, can you describe that group and provide info about how to refer someone to that group, which I can put the link in there. Can you describe the process and experience that a new international transfer receives upon arrival in terms of orientation, assistance with our resources, etc., etc.? Betsy, do you want to answer that, since it's a mentoring program?
Yes. So for the International Women's Expat Program and the International Mentor Program, which again are run outside of the Mosaic Project, but that we support, those are usually women that are working here already, that have strong English skills, that have a lot of resources, but they need to know how to adjust to really the St. Louis world. And so they are met by Susan Gobo, and then now Laura Wilson is the new executive director of the International Mentor Program St. Louis. And they meet with, either on Zoom or in person, the international women. They meet with the local women, and then they kind of make these one-on-one personal matches for people to see who they think will fit together. And they then build these groups of 5 international women and 5 local women. And they have people who've already been through the program who then become train the trainers and come back and lead those groups. When they have their first kickoff meetings, they sometimes hold them at the World Trade Center. And Suzanne Sierra talks about why this is all part of economic development for the region, because when people come here, it's not just about making a friend, but it's connecting people deeply so that they feel committed and understand St. Louis and want to make their family and their professional lives here. So it's both personal and professional. And there's links that Annie has put in the website. And also, if you go to STL Mosaic Project under Get Connected, you can find out how to become part of the mentor program and the women's program or professional connectors. We need people to be connectors. So for example, let's say you're a lawyer, an accountant, or an analyst, and you would like to then meet someone coming here that has that job skill, that you could meet with them one time and then make some introductions for them. We would love to know who you are, and you can sign up to be a connector, just like the international people can sign up to be a connectee.
All right. So there's like just a quick question for Arrey. They're asking what is the most common path immigrants take in order to get to the point to contact the International Institute? You're muted.
Here at the International Institute, we essentially receive 3 or 4 different kinds of arrivals. The first one is refugees. And so refugees are people who are fleeing conflict, persecution, and they've left their home country and gone to another country where they get registered with the United Nations High Commission for Refugees as refugees. And there are 13 countries around the world that signed a convention to accept or create opportunities for refugees to find refuge in those countries. The United States happens to be one. Whilst in this refugee camps, as they are called, they are vetted, and after a vetting process, which could, in some cases, go from 2 to 8 years averagely, then they are designated a country, and they're designated the United States. And the State Department of the United States designate them to cities across the United States, with St. Louis being one of those cities. And they come to St. Louis as refugees. And when they come here as refugees, we have a 90-day period within which we do what we call resettlement. And resettlement enables them to be able to begin their journey here in this country as refugees, where we provide housing, integrate them into schools, help them with finding a job. We do provide medical assistance as needed. So we do all of those things, and that's one path. We also have people who are in the United States and have been granted asylum so people who, again, cannot return to their country because for fear of persecution when they go back. They come to the United States, they're granted asylum, and they have almost the same status as refugees. The only difference is that they are already in the country. So we provide services to them as well. We also provide services, a wide range of services to immigrants who have been here within 0 to 5 years of their arrival. So we have a variety of programs that we support people right up to including economic development, where we provide financial literacy skills, as well as loans that can help immigrants that are new to the United States be able to establish businesses here. But we have a host of programs that we provide. And then we are here for any immigrant that comes that one would love to learn. We provide English language courses, and again, a wide variety of courses. So those are the various pathways, I would say, that people begin their journey with us to become residents in the United States and eventually citizens of the United States.
Great. So the next question is, Arrey, you mentioned a number of walk-ins coming to St. Louis from other cities. Are the number of walk-ins you mentioned a result of International Institute's effort to promote St. Louis to immigrants and refugees in other cities?
Yes, we believe so, but I keep saying that I don't want to dance hooray before the party is over. We believe what we are seeing, we're seeing a movement of people, and we think that it is thanks to some of the work that we're doing. One, with the Afghan support program, we've seen nearly 400 secondary migrants in the last 2 years, sorry, that have come to St. Louis. that went to other cities and have chosen to come to St. Louis after that. Some of them testify that it's as a result of the engagement that we've had with the Afghan community, whether it's in Houston, San Antonio, Chicago, or Virginia. We've seen that movement of people coming here. That's one. Secondly, we're seeing with the Latino outreach a significant number of people that are showing up as a result of this program. In fact, yesterday or 2 days ago, we had a conversation with a family out in Florida that said, as a result of this program, they want to move their family here to St. Louis. So some of that is as a result of the work that we've been doing. There's always also been significant outreach across the country, even internationally. We have somebody here in the office who is Afghan and came to the United States by way of Albania. And in my office here told me the reason I came to St. Louis is because there was an outreach to us whilst we were in Albania, and I decided to come to St. Louis. So there's a lot of effort that is being done, not only by the International Institute. Greater St. Louis Inc. this weekend was down in Austin at South by Southwest. There's a lot of effort now being done by a host of organizations to really position St. Louis as a welcoming community. Too often what is heard about St. Louis is the negative stuff, but I think the more there is concerted effort, the more there is collaboration around this idea, the more we're beginning to see returns. It's going to take a while. We're not going to turn around the population decline. It's going to take some time, but with concerted effort and with consistency, we think we're going to the story may be different in the next 8 years.
And I would add that the Office of New Americans that Mayor Tashara O. has put in, that Gilbert Pinella is now the director of, is another step forward because it makes a statement. And Gilberto is working on resources and building up activities and communications in multiple languages. He just did some recordings of emergency messages in different languages that the city will be using. So he is looking at ways to make our city more accessible at that city level for services internally and working with foreign-born people who potentially have different languages that they're bringing here. And he's going to be hosting activities. He's going to be hosting with international students. He's hosting some receptions at City Hall, so they get welcomed by the mayor and this community. He also is going to be hosting a number of these women that are in the International Mentor Program, and they will be hosted by the mayor to, again, make them and their companies understand that the city is welcoming. And St. Louis County is looking to do some other really governmental welcoming activities, both with flags representing Hispanic heritage, and the city has had heritage representation with a AAPI Asian event coming up soon, and an Irish Recognition Day and a Hispanic activities. And we're even seeing St. Charles did an event where they hosted international people and the spouses and their mentors through the mentor program. So there's a lot of government people now that are also looking to say, how can we be supportive and attract people to come here and make this a more growing, vibrant region?
Thank you. So there's another question from Marina. That's there was a great initiative to provide guidance promoting next step for Ukrainian refugees, and it stopped. Now that there's an approval for additional 2-year stay, do you plan to share more guidance?
Yes. Most of these government programs come and go depending on the politics at Washington, D.C., but there is a strong advocacy from organizations like the International Institute across the country to continue to advocate for support and services to the Ukrainians. We also have been keeping track of the data of applications that have been made for to welcome Ukrainians here, and we continue to see those numbers increase. Significant numbers have been in the region. We believe there's been over 1,200 of those applications made. Now, we don't know exactly how many have come into the region, but we have been able to provide services to nearly 400 Ukrainians in the last 2 years. And so we'll continue. Any Ukrainian that has been here right up to September 30th can still benefit from the services that are provided for Ukrainian parolees. So we continue to provide those services and hope that at the federal level, they're going to also create more opportunities for new arrivals, Ukrainians. We're also beginning to see Ukrainians arrive as refugees. So they were arriving previously as parolees and had to access certain benefits. But hopefully we may not see as many come in as parolees, but come in as refugees. And coming in as refugees allows them to have access to benefits that can enable them to thrive. So technically, they are not left out, but there are gaps in between, mindful of the date of arrival into the United States.
I wanted to add something about how both Ukrainians have come here, and then when they've been successful, they have other people that hear about coming to St. Louis. And partly we have to get the message out, and that's why the Institute has had people out traveling. We, as the Mosaic Project, try to get good stories out there about what's highlighting in St. Louis. Two other examples about how we get the message out is the national organization Welcoming America has their annual conference coming up. And on our team, Suzanne Sierra will be there. And the International Institute is actually going to be on one of the panels. And Arrey will be there talking about how does St. Louis welcome refugees and others. And so that takes the message. So nationwide, people know that St. Louis is interested in finding ways to be welcoming. And that's also similar to the South by Southwest in Austin recently, where, again, people from all over the country and internationally were in Austin for this incredible festival. And to have Carlos Ramirez of the International Institute have an opportunity in one of the meeting areas to talk about why St. Louis is attracting population with this Latino outreach is another way that this message of St. Louis being open and welcoming gets out to a national and an international audience. Now, obviously, immigration is a federal issue. And so we all are looking to attract people that are already here. We can't work with people that are trying to get here from all over the world because that's a very long process. But we can let people know when they come here and when they're authorized to be here, we have an open door policy for them to work in St. Louis, get resources in St. Louis, and connect. And we need to take that message outside of St. Louis and not just talk to ourselves.
Yeah.
Questions are still coming in. So this is from rural counties. It says, what advice would you have for rural counties that want to attract international, immigrants, refugees, assyrians, but not have the local infrastructure of corroborators and correlation that St. Louis relies upon to successfully bringing in foreign-born workers? I think that was a good question.
That's a good question and quite an interesting question. And this week I drove down to Jefferson City with along with Blake Hamilton, who is the vice president here, and we had this conversation along the way as we looked at these communities as we drove by, asking how life is in those communities. One of the advantages that we have had here in St. Louis is thinking about transportation. It's public transportation, but also the experience that the St. Louis Public School District has had over the years with working with people coming from all over the world. So the point that I'm trying to make is that it takes a concerted effort of a community, whether that community is rural or not. It has to be a decision within that community that they would love to open up the community to people coming from different parts of the world, because it would mean that the community has to identify needs or challenges that new arrivals would have and then work to address some of those needs. I know we've had a lot of conversations, for example, and St. Charles is by no means rural, right? But St. Charles is outside, it's a little bit outside where the public transportation system can get to. But we also know that there are lots of employers, industries, manufacturing industries out there that are in some of these rural areas that need. We also want to see them grow, right? Because they're companies that can provide work for people who can, and those people can live a life of dignity. But it would mean identifying challenges like transportation, access to English language translation so people can integrate the workforce. It would mean working with the local health services to be able to provide support to new arrivals as well. So their housing could be a challenge as well, depending on what the rural community has to offer. There's a lot of conversation at the national level about what is called remote placement, where because we're seeing challenges in some of the big cities across the country, there's a lot of conversation about encouraging these rural communities to open up and embrace immigrants, because that helps bring some vibrancy into those communities, and it can also spur growth. But for that to happen, those communities really need to think about these challenges that I brought up. And if the community can address those challenges, I think they can work. We are seeing, we just saw resettlement begin in Joplin, which had traditionally not been a place where resettlement took place. But as a result of the Afghan arrivals, and the fact that we couldn't find large homes in Springfield, we had to go outside the Springfield to find bigger homes that could take families of 10, 11. We could find them in Joplin. And so Joplin actually has now become a place with a resettlement agency as a result of that. And working with the team in Springfield, Joplin has been able to develop resources within the community to support the new arrivals. It's been challenging, but they're working through it.
Betsy, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I just think not. I guess I was just thinking of a parallel. Rural communities have to determine how to support. And for example, right now with Ramadan, you know, if you have people that join your community that celebrate Ramadan and they're Muslim, you know, you have to become aware of what that means for their fasting and their hours, and you have to be willing to acknowledge it, work with it, and be respectful of that. But I will say it's interesting because even if you're at a university, how do you take in 1,000 additional international students? This is not just the job of the international admissions group and then the group that's in career services. Every part of that university needs to embrace, what does it mean that you have all these international students? What does it mean for languages, for clubs, for study hours, for transportation, for food? So you almost have to get a whole buy-in of a bigger community if you're going to be successful welcoming international people. It's just like you can't have one group that says, oh yeah, we're going to bring in some people in, because if they don't have that holistic approach, you won't have long-term success for changing the community, growing the community, and having that vibrancy of multiculturalism. But you need those that are already entrenched to open up and see the value of making it a bigger pie for everybody.
Great. So we have 5 minutes. I still have a lot of questions. So I just wanted to mention that I am copying every question to put it in a Word document, and I'll send it to them. If they have any input, then I'll send a follow-up email with the answers as well. So I apologize that we're not going to address every question. But this question, they're asking, which you kind of a little bit talked about, any updates about the Latino and Afghan support programs? And with the number of other refugees coming into St. Louis, are there any support programs in the works?
Well, I think we're always going to continue reinventing ourselves as we see this trends of arrival coming to the community. We're going to continue to reinvent ourselves. We continue to think about creative ways in which we can support our new arrivals. And one opportunity that has come is really with the Empower initiative, which is funded, by the way, by the state of Missouri. And it's really important to highlight that because we're not only getting support from the federal government, but it's a good thing for the region that the state of Missouri has invested in an initiative that is really intended to support people integrating the workforce. So through the Empower program, we're providing support, with language assistance. We're providing support with helping people be able to get their driver's licenses and hope in some cases go on to get their commercial driver's licenses. We are helping people have access to specific language courses that would help them get into the trade. So English language courses that would help them understand, say, whether it's in engineering or whether it's in carpentry, but understand the language that is needed for the trades. There are those kind of opportunities. We're also always talking to funders within the community as we see trends evolving to look for resources that will support this new trend. So I'm very mindful of the fact that we've seen a spike in Congolese arrivals. What does that mean? That means that we at the Institute, we're thinking now of how to invest in getting more French language speakers, more people who speak Swahili, so that we can be able to provide more support to this group and be able to help them be successful. So we adapt as people come in to what is needed for people to succeed. So whoever asked this question, if you have some ideas of ways in which we can find resources, we're always open to having conversations to support new groups that join us.
Okay, any final thoughts? We have like 2 minutes.
I would say as a final thought, be your own ambassador, meet foreign-born people, volunteer at one of the many groups that are supporting newcomers to the region from the Institute, or become a connector with us or ambassador, or join with the mentor programs. Your schools are doing a lot because many times they now have newcomers and you could be helpful. So be involved on a one-on-one basis, because literally we are small and big at the same time. And if you can make an impact in one person's life who is new to our region, that is a big impact. So I encourage you to do it.
I would just say this is a work that belongs to all of us. I often say when I took this job, I thought it was really to help people in need. What I realized at the end of the day is to help a community in need. We are all community builders. Our work is to really, if we have a prosperous community, we would have a place where people from around the world can come to find refuge. So we work every day to make St. Louis prosperous so that generations of people can be prosperous.
I will just also add that at the STL Mosaic Project website, there's a calendar, and Annie puts lots of community events where you can participate. Things that are happening in the next week with the Indian Holly celebration at Stacy Park, or Festival of Nations, or Growing Global for the World Trade Center in September. So all sorts of ways, if you look at the calendar, where you can join in and be part of that global community. Thank you all.
All right, thank you so much. We do STL101 every month. We might take a break in the summer, and we have done the Zoom because our office is moving. I wanted to point that out for people that come to our office a lot. We have moved to the 2nd floor, and our next STL101 will be in person so that you can come and see our new space, which I'm very excited about. Thank you so much for being here. Everybody stayed in, and we are very excited. And thank you, Betsy and Arrey. This was very insightful. I know I do this work, but it's good to learn every day about what's going on in our St. Louis region. All right, have a good day, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.